Very disappointing the MLS on that. It's been nearly 1 year since Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation was rocked by allegations of misconduct. Back then, his accuser claimed it was her civic duty to come forward. Remember this?
I am here because I believe it is my civic duty to tell you what happened to me. My motivation in coming forward was to be helpful and to provide facts about how Mr. Kavanaugh's actions have damaged my life so that you could take into a serious consideration as you make your decision.
Well, now, newly uncovered video of her lawyer is raising some questions about that testimony.
He will always have an asterisk next to his name. When he takes a scalpel to Roe v. Wade, we will know who he is, we know his character, and we know what motivates him, and that is important. It is important that we know, and that was part of what motivated Christine.
Our next guest was the first to report on that, and it's all in his new book, Search and Destroy, Inside the Campaign Against Brett Kavanaugh.
Joining us right now is reporter for American Lawyer magazine and author Ryan Lovelace. He joins us from D.C. Ryan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I know you have not spoken to Christine Blasey Ford, but you have found this video that was on a website for the last 5 months where it talks, Deborah Katz, her lawyer, talks about motivation. So you're connecting dots. What does it all mean?
Well, in looking at this and in reporting Search and Destroy out, I spent a lot of time listening to Deborah Katz's public comments, going to her talks, watching what she does and talking to people that are her adversaries. And in hearing her say that her client was motivated by Roe v. Wade, particularly by tainting anything Justice Kavanaugh might do by it, for me it raises two big things. The first is it contradicts much of what Deborah Katz said at the time as Christine Blasey Ford's lawyer, that Christine Blasey Ford was ambivalent about all of this. And it contradicts what you just showed, that Christine Blasey Ford was saying this was all about her civic duty. It raises a lot of questions regarding what was the actual motivation, and if she was in fact motivated by trying to taint Justice Kavanaugh, for what purpose was that? And then, secondly, as you mentioned, this video has been available publicly for some time, but really no one in the press has paid attention to it. And I really think it starts to show some of the negligence that went on in terms of the coverage of this story and really investigating and getting to the bottom of all of the intent and motivation of what happened.
And Ryan, had people known about this motivation comment, perhaps those senators would have directed their questions differently.
Absolutely, I think they would. I mean, I think when we were watching the hearings at this time last year, one of the things that we saw was Rachel Mitchell, the questioner for Republicans, asking very sympathetic, probing questions, but not adversarial. But perhaps if they knew that the motivation as described by Deborah Katz differed from what Christine Blasey Ford had said, if they knew the things that were revealed after the hearing happened, I think there would have been a lot of different questions.
What's your biggest question left?
Well, I think there's a few, frankly. What Christine Blasey Ford said happened has only been corroborated by her. When it happened, where it happened, she can't quite say. So then we have to get to, well, why did this happen? And we haven't heard from her directly about why this happened, whether or not Deborah Katz is correct in saying this. Now, Deborah Katz, in talking about her strategy, said you need a legislative strategy, you need a press strategy, you have to have organized forces and work with nonprofits and the rest of that. And so it really begs the question, was Christine Blasey Ford working with all of those organized forces that Deborah Katz mentioned that had been trying to cancel Kavanaugh's nomination from the very beginning and really even before he got picked?
Ryan, tell us about your book, Search and Destroy.
So I've been working on this now for several months, and we're about a year on from the hearings. And really what I've been trying to do is walk readers through, step by step, the organized forces that were out there, even before Kavanaugh's nomination, that rose up and tried to cancel this nomination. There's a lot of attacks on the legitimacy and the authority of the court, and that's why people were willing to speak to me. Because people on the left have said that Justice Gorsuch sits in a stolen seat that belonged to Merrick Garland, President Obama's nominee, and now they're trying to put an asterisk next to Justice Kavanaugh's name. And I think it's important that people understand precisely what that means and the kind of attacks on the legitimacy and authority of the court that entails.
I'm just wondering, too, if the Republican Party wasn't able to come together on this, if it would have fallen apart, because Kavanaugh has roots with the Bush administration, who was picked by the Trump administration, and it kind of galvanized any anti-Trump force were willing to rally because he had a more traditional Republican background. Don't you think that played a role?
I think it did. And in talking to folks, what you really hear also is that this was one of the most things, the Supreme Court nominations have been a galvanizing and uniting moment for conservatives and Republicans writ large. What we really saw towards the end of the process when Michael Avenatti stepped forward, that was a moment at which, Republicans and conservatives kind of got their spine back and then really stepped up and kind of came together. And had that not happened, we'd be in a much different place right now, I think.
All right. Ryan Lovelace's brand new book is called Search and Destroy: Inside the Campaign Against Brett Kavanaugh. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.